Hey guys, Ethan here, and today we'll be reviewing Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Alright, so the back of the book says, do you have the mindset for financial success? How would you like to learn to succeed in all aspects of your life? More than just positive thinking, Napoleon Hill's philosophy is a tried and tested technique that can propel you to success. In clear, simple steps, Hill explains his law of success, which is the cornerstone for harnessing your potential and growing your wealth. So, Think and Grow Rich is completely popular. It's turning into a classic. It is already a classic, and I really liked it. I give this book a 7 out of 7, and here's why. The book is divided into 15 chapters, and the introduction, the chapter 1 and chapter 2, in my opinion, are all kind of the same thing. He talks about how if you know the secret, you know the secret, and you've got it already. He says somebody, I don't remember who, I think it was his son, read the book to chapter 2, instantly got it, didn't finish the book, and went on to be super successful. Chapter 4 is when he really starts getting deeper into it, and he talks a lot about the subconscious, the way it thinks, and what you can bring into your life through the power of thoughts and desire alone. He talks about autosuggestion, which is a term which applies to all suggestions and all self-administered stimuli which reaches one's mind through the 5 senses. And he says, no thought, whether it be negative or positive, can enter the subconscious mind without the aid of the principle of autosuggestion. All sense impressions which are perceived through the 5 senses are stopped by the conscious thinking mind. Basically, what he's saying here is that your conscious mind, and he goes on to explain this more, your conscious mind impacts your subconscious mind. Nothing can get into your subconscious mind without your conscious mind allowing it to do so. Furthermore, you can embed your subconscious mind with conscious thoughts, creating a kind of thought philosophy, or coloring your soul, if you will, with your own thoughts of what you choose to think, affecting your subconscious. He talks about how there's 2 types of knowledge, specialized and general, and it's pretty much what you think it would be. General is kind of a well-rounded sense of knowledge, while specialized knowledge is specific. He says, successful men in all callings never stop acquiring specialized knowledge related to their major purposes, business, or profession. So once you specialize in something, you never stop learning about it. You always continue to improve that aspect of what it is that you are good at. Like, let's say, for example, if you're a blacksmith, you make swords, and then you continue to learn how to make better swords, better ways to stoke the fire, better techniques. You start to learn how to make hatchets, axes, stuff like that. And then that goes on, and you become more and more specialized in your profession. He then talks about, in the next chapter, the imagination and how powerful the imagination is in the human species. He says, the imagination is literally the workshop wherein are fashioned all plans created by man. And basically, he talks about how all plans that have ever been created, houses, beds, everything, iPhone, computer, everything, started with a thought in the imagination. He says, man can create anything which he can imagine, which is pretty powerful. He then talks about how the imagination is actually your broadcasting and receiving station into the aether. And the aether is a collective thought, world, existence in between that we can't see, that exists between all humans. Man's only limitation within reason lies in his development and use of his imagination, meaning that the better your imagination is, the better you are. He talks about how imagination stems creation. Creation comes from the imagination. We can create anything that we can imagine. And he says that sex is the most powerful energy of creation. And we use our reproductive organs in a way to create, of course, through sex and reproduction. But if we're able to harness that energy and channel it through our imagination, we're able to create things that are just incredible. and do things that are incredible. The aether, the imagination, is a way of using energy. And he says everything all around us, all matter, including yourself and all your cells, started from a form of energy. We all came from energy and were converted into matter, which is something Albert Einstein discovered possible with E equals mc squared. So everything started from energy, and the imagination is energy. Everything comes from the imagination. He says that before the imagination, there is desire, and everything that you have in your life ever has stemmed from desire. Same goes with all humans. No individual has sufficient experience, education, native ability, and knowledge to ensure the accumulation of a great fortune without the cooperation of other people. And I'm just reading some of my highlights here. And so this is kind of still part of the imagination thing and stemming from desire. He's saying that we can't do things alone, that we need the help of other people. But he's also talking about how we can create actual people in our minds. He would sit with a council of members. He would have Albert Einstein there, Nikola Tesla. He'd have Abraham Lincoln. He'd have all these great people. Of course, they weren't actually there. This meeting didn't happen. But it happened in his imagination. And he imagined what these people were saying and what the advice they were giving him. He was channeling them through the aether, bringing them into his imagination. And they gave him advice. And he says that the advice that he received is something that these people would say. And he's come up with some good ideas as a result of this mastermind group, as he calls it, that would meet often. But on top of that, there's also a real mastermind group that you and your close friends should be in alliance. They should be people that you learn with each other. You guys create things, you bounce ideas, you guys push each other, and so forth. He talks about how indecision is a form of procrastination. When you procrastinate, you're stagnant and you don't improve, you don't grow, you don't get things done. You're not moving. Decision is powerful. He says a man that is quick to decide and slow to change is stronger than a man who is slow to decide and quick to change. So, moreover, on the sex transmutation, power of the mind, the driving force, and the mystery of sex transmutation. The meaning of word transmute is, in simple language, the changing or transferring of one element or form of energy into another. And he talks about in this chapter how we're going to transmute our sexual energy, which comes from a low place, to creation, in which it's intended to do, but we're going to be using it to create something else other than an air. Sex desire is the most powerful of human desires. When driven by this desire, men develop keenness of imagination, courage, willpower, persistence, and creative ability unknown to them at other times, saying that our sex energy is the most powerful energy we possess. It may be submerged and controlled for a time, but its very nature causes it to be ever-seeking means of expression. If it is not transmuted into some creative effort, it'll find a less worthy outlet. Fortunate, indeed, is the person who has discovered how to give sex emotion an outlet through some sort of creative effort, for he has, by that discovery, lifted himself to the status of a genius. Channel your sexual energy through something else other than sex. The men of greatest achievement are men with highly developed sex natures, men who have learned the art of sex transmutation. The men who have accumulated great fortunes and achieved outstanding recognition in literature, art, industry, architecture, and the professions were molded by the influence of a woman. And he goes on to kind of to develop this and say that these people, these great men, these great geniuses, had a woman with them who they were very sexually attracted to, powerful connection, and they channeled their sexual tendencies toward this person through their creative work. But that woman was there to kind of stimulate that process. Then he goes on to talk about going back to an earlier subject, connecting your conscious mind to your subconscious, and how you should plant seeds of desire into your subconscious so that it will feed upon the thoughts. It says thoughts are food for the subconscious. And then he says that you should shut off any other thoughts or negative thoughts that try to breach your subconscious. You are now engaged in trying to help shut off the flow of negative impulses and to aid in voluntarily influencing your subconscious mind through positive influences of desire. Everything which man creates begins in the form of a thought impulse. Man can create nothing which he does not first conceive in thought. Then he talks on about the ghosts of fear and how fear is very destructive to you and your well-being. And you shouldn't have fear. Fear is the only thing. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. That's not a direct quote from him, obviously. But he says there's 6 basic fears: the fear of poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love of someone, old age, and death. All other fears are minor importance. They can be grouped under these 6 headings. Fears are nothing more than states of mind. And he says indecision is the seedling of fear. Indecision crystallizes into doubt. The two blend and become fear. Don't allow yourself to succumb to fear. You need to grow above it and pursue your full potential, which fear hinders. Man can create nothing which he does not first conceive in the form of an impulse of thought, which he has said in previous chapters. Every human being has the ability to completely control his own mind. And with this control, obviously, every person may open his mind to the tramp thought impulses which are being released by other brains, or close the doors tightly and admit only thought impulses of his own choice. He talks about how the brain is, I said it earlier, the brain is a broadcasting and receiving station, the imagination is, and the subconscious does similar. We can literally connect our brains through the aether to other brains and feel and receive their thoughts. And you can see this examples in the real world as usually when there's one invention, the brink of technology, that same invention pops up in other places. The human collective thinks of things at similar times. The same goes with things like the 4-minute mile. Never thought possible until one person did it. 6 months after it had been achieved, another person did it. And now people are doing it every day. It's because once that thought has hit a mind, it transfers to other minds as well. And then once we see one person doing it, of course, we get over that fear as well of not being able to do it, the fear of or just the thought of it's impossible, which is also hindering. And then he talks about, he goes into fears a little bit more, but perhaps the two biggest ones are the fear of ill health and the fear of poverty. And throughout the entire book, he talks about how what you think affects your subconscious and how and you manifest that reality. Well, the fear manifests itself into the real world. If you fear you're getting sick, if you think you're getting sick, you're going to get sick. If you feel like, or if you fear that you're going to become, you're going to enter poverty, it's going to happen. It has been shown most convincingly that the fear of disease, even where there is not the slightest cause for fear, often produces the physical symptoms of the disease feared. Powerful and mighty is the human mind. It builds or it destroys. Your brain affects everything around you. Your entire reality is experienced through your brain, and the thoughts affect your brain as well as your subconscious mind, which is also very powerful. Use these two things, your conscious and subconscious mind, to your benefit. Otherwise, it could destroy you, such as putting you in poverty, making you ill, causing the loss of love, or any other kind of fear. Fear will destroy you. Every form of negative thinking may cause ill health. Disease sometimes begins in the form of a negative thought impulse. And don't let this give you anxiety about thinking negatively. If you think negatively, it happens. Thought impulses happen. You can't get rid of them. People around you think negatively, you'll think negatively. But choose. You can't always decide what you won't think of, but decide what you will think of. Induce thoughts of other things, of success, of your desires, of love, whatever it is that you want. First, it will begin as a thought. Create that thought. Sow the seed and plant it in your subconscious mind. Then he talks about death and the fear of death. Relieve yourself forever of the fear of death by reaching a decision to accept death as an inescapable event. It happens to everything that lives. Death is inevitable. It's going to happen to you. It's going to happen to all your loved ones. It's inevitable. Don't fear it. At the end of the book, he does this self-analysis test questions. And these questions are all about how Are you where you want to be? Are you thinking about what you want to think about? The first one is, do you complain often of feeling bad? And if so, what is the cause? The second one, do you find fault with other people at the slightest provocation? Do you frequently make mistakes in your work? Are you sarcastic and offensive in your conversation? Do you deliberately avoid the association of anyone? Do you suffer frequently with indigestion? Does life seem futile and the future hopeless? Do you like your occupation? And these questions go on for a few, about 2 or 3 pages. And they kind of bring you into a thought process of improving yourself and getting rid of some of these fears, or getting rid of indecision, of getting rid of doubt. If you answer all these questions truthfully, you will know more about yourself than the majority of people, and that's powerful. You'll know more about the way you think, about how you feel, and you can start to see where you want to make changes and where you want to stay the same. If you are not certain concerning the answers to some of these questions, seek the counsel of those who know you well, especially those who have no motive in flattering you, and see yourself through their eyes. The experience will be astonishing. You have absolute control over but one thing, and that is your thoughts. Your mind is your spiritual estate. Use it with the care to which divine royalty is entitled. That's how you should create your own mind. It is your spiritual estate. The mind can produce anything the mind can conceive and believe. Men with negative minds told this man he would go broke trying to run a store on 5 and 10 cent sales. He did not believe them. He knew that he could do anything within reason if he backed his plans with faith, exercising his rights to keep other men's negative suggestions out of his mind. He piled up a fortune of more than $100 million. And when he says faith, he's not talking about faith in God. He's talking about faith in oneself. The faith in your ability, the faith in your thoughts, the faith of your subconscious mind, and the faith of your work ethic and determination and your desire. The faith of oneself and your ability to carry out your thoughts and the ability to control your thoughts. Having faith in something so utterly unshakable will make it true to your reality. If you have faith that you can completely control your mind, you will be able to completely control your mind. If you have faith that you will become a millionaire, a billionaire, or the world's first trillionaire, you will do it. But you have to have an unshakable faith. If I say these things and you think, okay, yeah, I'll become the world's first trillionaire, right? That's sarcastic. You're being sarcastic. You're not actually taking that faith to yourself and you're not acting on it. If these words reach you and you actually go, yeah, you know what? I can be the world's first trillionaire, and you go out to do it and you have such unshakable faith that you can do it, you will do it. You will. The first and best victory is to conquer self. To be conquered by self is, of all things, the most shameful and vile. You have to conquer yourself and your thoughts. You must not allow yourself to conquer you. It was a great surprise to me when I discovered that most of the ugliness I saw in others was but a reflection of my own state. The world that we live in is a reflection of us. If you have a problem with someone, it's usually something that person is reflecting of you. That's the type of reality we live in. We live in a mirror reality. You make the choice of what you want to see in your reality. You control everything around you, starting with your thoughts. Your thoughts control it all. Life is a checkerboard, and the player opposite you is time. You are playing against a partner who will not tolerate indecision. You must not be indecisive. You must decide, and you must act, and you must quit wasting time. The reward is worthy of your effort. Will you make the start and be convinced? Think and Grow Rich, the classic edition, is probably one of my favorite books. I give it a solid 7 out of 7. It's inspired me to do way more than I was doing. I read this book over a year ago, and I love it. One of the best books, still inspires me today. It's pushed me to read more and more books. It was one of the first books that I finished, and it's a very powerful thing to have on your side. It teaches you, it's basically a guidebook on how to harness your power. This book's like a spell book. You harness your power and you use it to your advantage, and that's what it's all about. Whatever it is you want. It's not talking about just being a millionaire or being an entrepreneur. It's talking about going out and creating the destiny that you want to create, because your destiny starts with your thoughts, with your desire. It all starts with you, and you just got to make the decision to create it. All right. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.